The alien queen's daughters disappeared, and a human became their final guardian. Part 1. The three princesses of the Sindari Dominion vanished on the night of the sacred moon ceremony. One moment they stood beside their mother, Empress Valthari, dressed in ceremonial robes that glowed with the light of their ancestors. The next moment the lights went dark, and when they returned, the princesses were gone. The Empress screamed. It was a sound that shook the walls of the ancient palace. Guards rushed in from every direction, but they found nothing. No trace, no sign of struggle. Just 3 empty spaces where her daughters had stood. Within hours, a message arrived. The voice was distorted, impossible to identify. It demanded the Empress surrender her throne, or her daughters would die. The Empress listened in cold silence, her 4 arms clenched into fists. She said nothing. When the message ended, she ordered every ship in her fleet to search the galaxy, but she did not know that the enemy was already inside her palace. Far across the galaxy, on a small trading station called Nexus 7, a human named Daniel Carter loaded cargo onto his ship. Most people called him Danny. He was 36 years old, with tired eyes and rough hands. He had worked as a cargo hauler for 5 years now, moving supplies between stations and colonies that nobody important cared about. Before that, he had been something else. A search and rescue specialist. A man who flew into danger to save lives. But that was before the accident. Before he lost everything that mattered to him. Now he just moved boxes from one place to another and tried not to think about the past. Danny finished loading his ship and prepared for departure. It was a simple run medical supplies to a mining outpost 3 systems away. Easy money. No complications. He was halfway through the asteroid field when his scanner detected something unusual. A distress beacon. Faint, almost too weak to register. It came from a small object drifting between the rocks. Danny checked his schedule. He was already behind. The mining outpost expected him in 18 hours. If he stopped now, he would be late. The company did not like late deliveries. He turned his ship toward the beacon anyway. The object was an escape pod. Sindari design, based on the markings. It had been badly damaged. Burn marks covered its hull, and one side had been torn open by weapons fire. Danny guided his ship closer and extended the docking arm. When he opened the pod, he found 3 children inside. They were Sindari, tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. 2 arms each, unlike the adults of their species, who had 4. They wore torn clothing that had once been expensive. Very expensive. The kind of clothing that only royalty wore. Danny recognized the markings on their skin. Golden patterns that swirled across their foreheads and down their necks. He had seen those patterns before, in news broadcasts and official documents. They belonged to the royal bloodline. These were not just any children. These were the missing princesses of the Sindari Dominion. The eldest looked at him with fear in her eyes. She was maybe 15 in human years, though Sindari aged differently. She pushed her 2 younger sisters behind her, protecting them with her body. "Please," she said in broken English. "Do not hurt." Danny raised his hand slowly. "I am not going to hurt you. I am here to help." The youngest princess, a small girl who looked about 6, peeked out from behind her sister. She had been crying. Her face was dirty and her hands were shaking. The middle sister, maybe 10 years old, said nothing. She just stared at Danny with empty eyes. Something terrible had happened to these children. "My name is Danny," he said softly. "I found your escape pod. You are safe now." The eldest princess shook her head. "Not safe. Never safe. They will find us." "Who will find you?" "The traitor. He sent soldiers to kill us. We escaped, but he will send more." She grabbed Danny's arm with surprising strength. "Please, do not call the authorities. The traitor is inside the military. If you report us, he will know. He will send assassins." Danny looked at the 3 frightened children. The youngest had started crying again. The middle one had not blinked once since he arrived. The eldest was trying so hard to be brave, but he could see the terror beneath her courage. He thought about his own daughter. She would have been 12 this year. "What is your name?" he asked the eldest. "Kilani. My sisters are Shivora and Neri." "Kilani, I believe you. I will not call the authorities." Relief flooded her face. "You will help us?" Danny nodded. He did not know why he made that decision. It went against every rule, every protocol, every sensible thought in his head. He was just a cargo hauler. He had no weapons, no military training, no way to protect 3 royal children from assassins. But he looked at Neri's tears and Shivora's empty eyes. And he knew he could not walk away. "Come with me," he said. "We need to leave this area before anyone finds us." He helped the princesses onto his ship and sealed the airlock. Then he went to the cockpit and changed course. The mining outpost would have to wait. The company would be angry. They might fire him. None of that mattered now. Danny plotted a jump to an uncharted system that did not appear on any official maps. It was a place he had hoped to never see again. A place filled with memories and pain. But it was also the safest place he knew. As his ship accelerated toward the jump point, a Sindari warship dropped out of hyperspace near Nexus 7. It was massive, a military cruiser armed with enough weapons to destroy a small moon. The commander demanded information from the station about any unusual activity in the area. The station master reported a cargo ship that had deviated from its course near the asteroid field. Warship turned to follow, but Danny's ship had already vanished into the darkness between stars. The alien queen's daughters disappeared, and a human became their final guardian. Part 2. Danny's ship traveled through empty space for 2 days. During that time, he learned just how difficult it was to care for 3 alien children. Sindari did not eat human food. Their bodies could not process most proteins that humans consumed. Danny searched through his cargo medical supplies, meant for a mining outpost, and found nutrient packs that were close enough to what the princesses needed. It was not ideal, but it kept them alive. The eldest, Kilani, helped him understand what her sisters required. She explained their biology in broken English, sometimes drawing pictures when words failed her. Danny listened carefully and took notes. He had never been responsible for alien children before, but he had learned many things during his years in search and rescue. Adapting to new situations was one of them. On the second night, Neri became sick. The youngest princess had been weak since Danny found her. The trauma of the kidnapping, the escape, the days spent drifting in a damaged pod had taken a heavy toll on her small body. She developed a fever that climbed higher and higher, and her breathing became shallow and fast. Danny did not sleep that night. He sat beside Neri's bed and monitored her vital signs using the ship's medical scanner. He researched Sindari physiology on the ship's database, reading everything he could find about their immune systems and common illnesses. When her temperature reached dangerous levels, he prepared a cooling solution using chemicals from the medical cargo and applied it to her skin. Kaylani watched him work. "Why do you help us?" she asked quietly. "Humans in Sindari are not allies. Your species has no reason to care about our lives." Danny adjusted the cooling pad on Neri's forehead. "She is a child. That is reason enough." By morning, the fever had broken. Neri opened her eyes and asked for water. Danny gave her a nutrient drink instead, and she made a face at the taste, but drank it anyway. Kaylani finally allowed herself to cry. She had been holding everything inside since the attack, trying to be strong for her sisters. Now the relief overwhelmed her. Danny pretended not to notice and gave her space to release her emotions. Later that day, Keelani told him the full story. The kidnapping had been planned by High Commander Drexel, the most trusted military advisor to their mother. Drexel had served the Empress for 30 years. He had led her armies to victory in a dozen campaigns. Everyone in the Dominion believed he was loyal, but Drexel wanted power. He wanted the throne, and he knew he could never take it while the Empress had heirs. His plan was simple and terrible. Kill the princesses and blame humans for their deaths. The Empress would be consumed by grief. The Dominion would go to war against humanity. And in the chaos that followed, Drexel would seize control of the military and eventually the throne itself. The princesses had escaped only because of luck. A servant loyal to their mother had discovered the plot and helped them reach an escape pod before the assassins arrived. That servant had died protecting them. If we return through official channels, Keelani said, Drexel will know. He controls the military. His spies are everywhere. He will send more assassins, and this time we will not escape. Danny understood the situation now. The children could not go home. They could not contact the authorities. They were trapped between a traitor who wanted them dead and a galaxy that did not know they were alive. Where are we going? Keelani asked. A place I used to know, Danny said. An old human colony on a moon called Threshold. It was abandoned 15 years ago. No one goes there anymore. Why was it abandoned? Danny did not answer immediately. He looked out the window at the stars passing by. A disease. It spread through the colony before anyone could stop it. Most people were evacuated, but some did not make it. You lived there? Yes, with my wife and daughter. Keelani was quiet for a moment. They did not make it. No, they did not. The ship dropped out of hyperspace near a gray moon orbiting a dying star. The colony appeared on the scanner, a cluster of buildings surrounded by empty fields and abandoned equipment. Nothing had moved there in 15 years. Thought Danny landed the ship near the main settlement. The buildings were still intact, protected from decay by the moon's thin atmosphere. He led the princesses inside and found the old living quarters. Dust covered everything, but the structures were solid. Shivora, the middle princes who had barely spoken since Danny found them, walked through the room slowly. She stopped in front of a small bedroom. A child's bedroom. There were toys on the shelves and drawings on the walls. Your daughter's room, she said. It was not a question. Danny nodded. He had not been inside this room since the day he left Threshold. He had never expected to return. Shivora looked at him with her dark eyes. You brought us to a place that hurts you. Why? Because it is safe, Danny said. Because no one will look for you here. Because keeping you alive matters more than my pain. Shivora studied his face for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She walked over to Danny and took his hand. Thank you, she said. For choosing us. Danny squeezed her hand gently. He did not trust himself to speak. That night, the three princesses slept in the living quarters while Danny kept watch. He sat on the roof of the main building, scanning the sky for any sign of approaching ships. Near midnight, his scanner detected something. A ship entering the system. Small, fast, running without identification signals. A hunter ship. They had been found. The alien queen's daughters disappeared, and a human became their final guardian. Part 3. Danny moved fast. He woke the princesses and led them to the underground bunker beneath the colony's main building. The bunker had been built to protect against solar storms, but it would serve a different purpose tonight. Stay here, he told Keelani. Keep your sisters quiet and do not open this door for anyone except me. Keelani grabbed his arm. Where are you going? To deal with whoever is coming. You cannot fight them alone. Drexel's assassins are elite hunters. They have been trained since birth to track and kill. Danny checked the old emergency kit he had found in the colony's storage room. It contained a flare gun, a knife, and some rope. Not much against trained killers, but it was better than nothing. "I know what they are," he said, "but they do not know what I am." He sealed the bunker door and went outside. The hunter ship landed 2 kilometers from the colony. Danny watched through his scanner as 6 figures emerged. They moved in formation, spreading out to cover more ground while staying within communication range of each other. Professional, disciplined, Sindari hunters. The Empress's own death squad now turned against her children. Danny did not wait for them to reach the colony. He moved into the abandoned buildings and began to prepare. The first hunter found him 20 minutes later. Or rather, Danny found the hunter. He had positioned himself in an old water tower overlooking the main road. When the hunter passed below, Danny dropped a heavy piece of equipment onto his head. The hunter went down and did not get up. The others heard the impact and changed their approach. They stopped moving individually and formed pairs. Smarter, but still not smart enough, Danny led them through the colony like ghosts chasing shadows. He knew every building, every alley, every hidden passage. He had lived here for 3 years before the evacuation. He had played with his daughter in these streets. He had walked these paths 1,000 times. The hunters knew none of this. To them, it was just another abandoned settlement on a forgotten moon. They did not understand that the terrain itself was Danny's weapon. He triggered a collapse in an old mining tunnel, burying 2 hunters under rubble. He lured another into a storage facility and locked the doors, trapping him inside. One by one, he reduced their numbers. By the time the remaining hunters realized what was happening, only 2 were left. The leader and 1 subordinate. The leader was different from the others. Older, more experienced. He stopped chasing Danny through the colony and instead went straight for the bunker. Danny intercepted him at the entrance. They fought in the moonlight, surrounded by the ruins of a dead colony. The Sindari hunter was faster and stronger. He had 4 arms, each one capable of delivering a killing blow. Danny had 2 arms and a knife. That was too small for this kind of fight, but Danny had something the hunter did not. Expect stubbornness, the human refusal to quit even when the situation was hopeless. The hunter cut Danny across the chest. Danny kept fighting. The hunter broke 2 of Danny's ribs with a single strike. Danny kept fighting. The hunter threw Danny against a wall so hard that the wall cracked. Danny got back up and kept fighting. "Why do you not die?" the hunter demanded. He was breathing hard now, confused by this strange human who would not stop. "Because those children need me," Danny said. He attacked again. The hunter blocked his knife and disarmed him, then pinned him to the ground with 2 arms while the other 2 prepared to deliver the killing blow. "You are brave," the hunter admitted. "But bravery does not defeat superior biology. You were never going to win this fight." Danny looked up at him. "I was not trying to win. I was trying to delay you." "Delay me? For what?" A rock struck the hunter in the back of the head. He spun around and saw Kilani standing in the bunker doorway, another rock already in her hand. "Leave him alone," she said. The hunter released Danny and moved toward the princess. "Foolish child. You just made my job easier." But in turning away from Danny, he made a fatal mistake. Danny grabbed the hunter's own knife from his belt and drove it into the gap between his armor plates. The hunter fell. Danny collapsed beside him, barely conscious. Blood covered his chest and face. His ribs screamed with every breath. His vision blurred at the edges. Yelani ran to him and pressed her hands against his wounds. "Stay awake. Please stay awake." "Your sisters," Danny whispered. "Are they safe?" "They are fine. You saved us." Tears ran down her face. "You stupid, brave human. You almost died for us." Danny tried to smile, but could not manage it. "Worth it," The last hunter emerged from the shadows behind them. Danny had forgotten about the subordinate. The hunter raised his weapon, aiming at Keelani's back. Danny had no strength left. He could not fight. He could not even stand, but he could still move his body. He threw himself between the hunter and Keelani just as the weapon fired. The shot meant for the princess struck Danny instead. He heard Keelani scream. He heard the sound of footsteps running away, the last hunter fleeing into the night. His mission failed. Then everything went dark. Lonnie held Danny's body and wept. She did not know if he was alive or dead. She only knew that he had given everything to protect her and her sisters. She made a decision. She went back to Danny's ship and accessed the communication system. She bypassed the standard channels and sent a message directly to her mother's private frequency, a frequency that even Drexel did not know existed. "Mother," she said, "I am alive. My sisters are alive. And a human saved us. Please, come. Please hurry." Then she returned to Danny's side and waited. The alien queen's daughters disappeared, and a human became their final guardian. Part 4. The Empress received her daughter's message in the middle of a war council. Her advisors were arguing about which human colonies to target first. High Commander Drexel was recommending a full military assault on 3 major systems. When the private communication alert sounded, the Empress raised one hand and the room went silent. She listened to Keelani's voice. She heard her daughter say that she was alive, that her sisters were alive, that a human had saved them. The Empress closed her eyes. For one moment, she allowed herself to feel relief. Then she opened her eyes, and they were cold as ice. "Cancel all military operations," she said. Drexel stepped forward. "Your Majesty, we are on the edge of victory against the humans. We cannot stop now because of an unverified message that could be a trap. My daughter knows frequencies that no enemy can access. The message is genuine. Then let me send a rescue team immediately. I will personally lead the operation to retrieve the princesses." The Empress looked at him. She had known Drexel for 30 years. He had been her most trusted commander, her closest advisor. She had believed in his loyalty without question. Now she wondered what else she had been blind to. "No," she said. "I will go myself. Prepare my flagship. Bring only the Royal Guard soldiers who answer to me and no one else." Drexel's face remained calm, but something flickered in his eyes. Fear, perhaps. Or calculation. "Your Majesty, it is too dangerous. That was not a request, Commander. You will accompany me, but you will command nothing." The Empress's flagship was the largest vessel in the Sindari fleet. It carried 500 royal guards and enough firepower to destroy a planet. It traveled at maximum speed toward the coordinates Keelani had provided. They arrived at threshold. 12 hours later, the Empress transported down to the surface with her personal guard. Drexel came with them, surrounded by soldiers who watched him carefully. He did not know yet that he was already under suspicion. They found the princesses in the bunker. Neri and Shivora ran to their mother and threw themselves into her arms. Keelani stood back, her hands still covered in blood that was not her own. "Where is the human?" the Empress asked. Lonnie led her to a small room where Danny lay on a makeshift bed. He was barely breathing. His wounds had been bandaged with torn cloth, but he needed real medical attention urgently. "He fought 6 of Drexel's assassins," Keelani said. "He killed 5 of them. The last one shot him when he threw himself in front of me." The Empress looked at the unconscious human. He was ordinary in every way, medium height, brown hair, unremarkable features. Nothing about him suggested he was capable of what her daughter described. "He asked for nothing," Keelani continued. "He knew we were royalty. He knew he could have demanded a reward, contacted the authorities, made himself famous. Instead, he hid us, fed us, protected us. He almost died for 3 children he had never met. The Empress knelt beside Danny's bed. She had ruled the Sindari Dominion for 40 years. She had commanded armies, negotiated treaties, executed traitors. She had seen every kind of being the galaxy had to offer. She had never seen anything like this. "Bring the medical team," she ordered. "Save his life. Whatever it takes." Behind her, Drexel was sweating. The Empress's guards had spread out through the colony and found the bodies of the assassins. 5 dead hunters, all wearing equipment that could be traced back to special forces under Drexel's command. He tried one last desperate move. "Your Majesty, clearly this human intercepted a rescue mission and killed our soldiers. He is a kidnapper, not a savior. The princesses have been manipulated." Silence. The word cut through the air like a blade. The Empress stood and faced Drexel. Her forearms were rigid at her sides, a sign of barely controlled rage. "My daughter has told me everything," she said. "The betrayal, the escape, the assassins you sent to murder my children. Lies. The human has poisoned their minds." Shivora stepped forward. The middle princess, who had barely spoken since the ordeal began, looked directly at Drexel with her dark eyes. "I saw the soldiers who attacked us," she said clearly. "I heard them speak your name. I watched them kill the servant who helped us escape. They said you would reward them for bringing back our bodies." The room went completely still. Neri, the youngest princess, walked up to Drexel. She was so small that she barely reached his waist. She looked up at him without fear. "You are a liar," she said, "and a coward. You hurt my sisters, and you hurt the nice human. I hate you." Drexel lost control. He grabbed for his weapon, intending to take the youngest princess hostage. But before he could move, a hand caught his ankle and pulled. Danny had woken up. He was too weak to stand, too injured to fight. But he could still reach out from the bed and trip a man who stood too close. Drexel fell hard. Before he could rise, a dozen royal guards had their weapons pointed at his head. The Empress stood over him. "You served me for 30 years. I trusted you with my empire and my children, and you would have murdered them for power." Drexel said nothing. There was nothing left to say. "Take him to the ship," the Empress ordered. "He will face the High Council's judgment, though I already know what that judgment will be." The guards dragged Drexel away. The Empress returned to Danny's side as the medical team arrived and began treating his wounds. "Will he survive?" she asked. "The injuries are severe," the chief physician said, "but he is strong, and humans are surprisingly difficult to kill." The Empress allowed herself a small smile. "Yes, I am beginning to understand that." When Danny finally woke, 3 days later, he found himself in a bed softer than anything he had ever known. Medical equipment surrounded him, quietly monitoring his vital signs. At the foot of the bed, 3 young princesses were asleep in a pile of blankets. They had refused to leave his side. Danny looked at them for a long moment. Then he closed his eyes and slept again. The alien queen's daughters disappeared, and a human became their final guardian part. 5 Danny stood in the throne room of the Sindari royal palace. He wore borrowed clothes, simple but clean, because his own had been destroyed in the fight. His wounds had healed, though he still moved carefully. The physicians had told him he would carry scars for the rest of his life. He did not mind. Scars meant survival. The throne room was enormous. Columns of white stone rose toward his ceiling, painted with scenes from Sindari history. Thousands of years of conquests, treaties, and dynasties covered every surface. Danny felt very small standing in the middle of it all. The High Council sat on elevated platforms around the room. Dozens of Sindari nobles, military commanders, and religious leaders watched Danny with expressions ranging from curiosity to hostility. Humans held no status in the Sindari Dominion. To most of them, Danny was little better than an animal. The Empress sat on the throne at the far end of the room. Her forearms rested on the armrests, and her face was unreadable. Beside her stood her 3 daughters, dressed in formal robes that marked them as heirs to the empire. A herald announced Danny's name and called him forward. Danny walked the length of the throne room alone. His footsteps echoed off the stone floor. He could feel every eye in the room watching him, judging him. He kept his head up and his back straight. When he reached the throne, he stopped and bowed. He did not know the proper Sindari customs, but bowing seemed like a safe choice. The Empress rose from her throne and descended the steps to stand before him. Up close, she was taller than he had expected. Her dark eyes studied his face with an intensity that made him want to look away. "Daniel Carter," she said. Her voice carried through the entire room. "You stand before the throne of the Sindari Dominion. Do you know why you are here?" "I assume you want to thank me for helping your daughters," Danny said. "You do not have to. I did what anyone would have done." A murmur ran through the council. Speaking so casually to the Empress was apparently not done. The Empress raised one hand, and the room went silent. "Anyone would have done what you did?" "I do not think so." Many beings would have reported 3 royal children to the authorities and claimed a reward. Many more would have simply looked away and pretended they saw nothing. You chose to risk everything for strangers. She began to walk a slow circle around Danny. You hid them. You fed them. You nursed the youngest through a fever that could have killed her. When assassins came, you faced them alone so my daughters could hide. When you were beaten and bleeding, you still refused to give up. When a weapon was aimed at my eldest daughter's back, you threw yourself in front of it. She stopped in front of him. "Tell me why." Danny was quiet for a moment. The memories came rushing back, not just of the past week, but of another time, another place. A small bedroom with toys on the shelves. A daughter who never got to grow up. "I had a child once," he said. "A daughter. She died when she was 7 years old. There was an accident, a disease outbreak, and I could not save her. I could not save my wife either. I spent years blaming myself, wondering if I could have done something different." He looked at the Empress directly. "When I found your daughters in that escape pod, I saw 3 frightened children who needed help. I could not bring my daughter back. I could not undo the past. But I could do something for them. I could give them a chance to survive." "So, you acted out of guilt?" "No, I acted because it was right. Because children should not die for the ambitions of powerful men. Because protecting the innocent is the only thing that matters in this universe." Danny shook his head. "I did not think about rewards or consequences. I just saw 3 kids who needed someone to stand between them and danger. So I stood there." The throne room was completely silent. Even the hostile council members had nothing to say. The Empress nodded slowly. "I have ruled this empire for 40 years. I have met thousands of beings from hundreds of species. Politicians, warriors, diplomats, scholars. I have never met anyone like you." She raised her voice so the entire council could hear. "This human did what none of my soldiers, none of my advisors, none of my so-called loyal subjects could do. He protected my children when one of our own betrayed them. He asked for nothing in return. He was willing to die for 3 girls he had never met." She turned to face the council. "The Sindari value strength. We value power. We value conquest. But perhaps we have forgotten something more important. We have forgotten what it means to protect, to sacrifice, to choose others over ourselves." The Empress returned to her throne and sat down. Her 3 daughters stood beside her, watching Danny with expressions he could not quite read. "Daniel Carter," the Empress announced. "I hereby name you guardian of the royal heirs. You will have full authority to protect my daughters, a position beside the throne, and the eternal gratitude of Sindari Dominion. This title has never been given to anyone outside our species. You will be the first." The council erupted. Voices rose in protest, demanding explanations, citing traditions that stretched back thousands of years. The Empress let them argue for exactly 10 seconds. Then she spoke again, and her voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Which of you risked everything for my daughters when one of our own betrayed them? Which of you was willing to die for them?" She looked across the room at the silent faces. "I thought not. My decision stands." Danny did not know what to say. He had expected a thank you, maybe a reward, and then passage back to human space. He had not expected this. But then he looked at the 3 princesses standing beside the throne. Neri was bouncing with excitement. Shivora watched him with calm eyes and the smallest hint of a smile. Keoani nodded at him once, a gesture of respect, of gratitude, of something deeper. They had become family to him over the past week. He had not realized it until this moment, but it was true. He was not ready to leave them. "I accept," he said. The Empress smiled. It transformed her face, making her look younger, warmer. "Then, welcome to the Dominion Guardian. I suspect my daughters will keep you very busy." Later that evening, Danny walked through the royal gardens with the 3 princesses. The sun was setting behind distant mountains, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Nairi held his hand and pointed at flowers, asking him the human names for each one. Danny made up names when he did not know the real ones, and she laughed at his silliness. Shivora walked beside him in comfortable silence. Every now and then, she would look up at him with an expression of quiet contentment. Kayanis fell into step on his other side. The legends say that humans are the most stubborn species in the galaxy, that you never give up, even when you should. Danny smiled. "Is that a bad thing?" "I used to think so. Now I am not sure." She looked at him sideways. "Are all humans like you?" "No, some are worse." Keoani laughed, the first time he had heard her laugh since they met. "I think I would like to meet more humans someday." "Maybe you will," Danny said. "The galaxy is full of surprises." They walked on through the garden as the stars began to appear overhead. A cargo hauler who had lost everything had found a new purpose. 3 princesses who had nearly died had found a protector. And the Sindari Dominion had learned that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe was not strength or conquest. It was simply a human who refused to give up.